Welcome back to another podcast episode of Divorce and Child Custody Discussion. I'm your host, Brian A. Victor, and I'm a family law attorney and mediator and former family court services counselor. Today's episode is all about one of the most critical parts of your child custody case, family court services mediation, often referred to as FCS. But more specifically, we are going to talk about why preparing for FCS matters and why not preparing can be a serious mistake. However, before we get started, I'd like to thank all my loyal listeners as I do each podcast episode. The listenership of this podcast grows every episode. And you, the listener, are the reason I produce this podcast. So thank you for your continued support, and remember to click subscribe so that you don't miss any upcoming podcast episode. Also, thank you to Feedspot for naming this podcast one of the top 15 divorce podcasts to listen to. And a huge thank you to Million Podcasts, which named this podcast one of the top 40 mediation podcasts and listed it at number 2 on their top 30 best child custody podcasts. And remember, as always, the goal of this podcast is to educate, and nothing in this podcast constitutes legal advice or creates an attorney-client relationship. Okay, now on to the podcast. And this podcast, we're going to discuss FCS. And to start with, what is it? And why is it so important? Let's begin with the basics. Family court services mediation is where parents involved in child custody disputes meet with a neutral third party, the family court services counselor, often referred to as mediator, and they try to create a parenting plan that serves the best interests of their child. In California, counties like San Diego has FCS, which is recommending. What that means is if parents cannot reach an agreement, the mediator will write a report with their recommendation to the judge. And here's the reality. That recommendation carries weight. In many cases, it strongly influences the outcome of your custody and visitation orders. So while it might feel like just another appointment in a long legal process, it is in fact a pivotal moment in your case. What happens in that brief meeting can have long-term effects on your parenting time, holiday schedules, and even the quality of your relationship with your child. So now let's discuss the role of the mediator and what is at stake. During the mediation, the mediator's job is to listen to both parents, evaluate the family dynamics, and assess what kind of parenting plan will be in the best interest of the child. This is not a time to wing it. It's not a casual conversation. It's a structured process that may result in a written recommendation to the court. If you're not prepared, if you're caught off guard, overwhelmed by emotions, or unclear on what you want, the consequences can be significant. And while FCS mediators do their best to be neutral and child-focused, they are still relying on what they observe and what you say during that session in order to help form their opinion. That's why how you present yourself and your parenting priorities matters greatly. Now, we hear about the importance of this session. Why should you prepare? So here's why preparation matters. Preparation for FCS isn't just about knowing what to say. It's about being ready mentally, emotionally, and strategically. Here's why preparation is so important. First, you may not get a second chance. FCS mediation generally occurs only once before your court hearing. If you don't make your case clearly or articulate your concerns effectively, you can't undo that impression. The recommendation goes to the judge and it becomes part of the official record. Second, emotions can cloud communication. Custody disputes are emotional. It's normal to feel frustrated, hurt, or even anxious. But if you haven't prepared, those emotions can take over during the mediation session. You might say things you regret, miss key points, or come across as combative or uncooperative. Third, your child's future is directly impacted. This process isn't just about you, it's about your child. Whether your child will be with you an equal amount of the time or every other weekend may hinge on how effectively you communicate your parenting strengths, concerns, and proposals during the mediation session. Preparation helps you stay focused on what really matters, and that's your child's well-being. Fourth, it affects how the judge sees you. Remember, in recommending counties, the judge likely won't meet your child or witness your parenting. Therefore, the FCS Mediator's Report may be their first and most detailed look at your family dynamic. So showing up prepared is a direct way to influence how the court understands your situation. Now, let's talk about what proper preparation can do for you. When you prepare for FCS the right way, you walk in with confidence, not confusion, clarity about your child's needs and your parenting goals, a strong ability to communicate calmly and effectively, and finally, an understanding of how to respond to difficult topics or surprises. Most importantly, you walk in ready to represent the best version of yourself as a parent. That alone can help shift how the mediation unfolds. Having spent over a decade as a family court services mediator and now as a practicing family law attorney and mediator, I've seen firsthand how proper preparation can completely change the outcome, not just in terms of parenting plans, but in reducing long-term conflict and setting the tone for cooperative co-parenting. That's why I provide family court services preparation to parents who find me online, those who are referred to me by their attorney, and to my own clients. Finally, here's a takeaway. Do not treat family court services mediation as just another step in your case. Treat it as the opportunity that it is, an opportunity to create a healthy parenting plan and show the court that you are a thoughtful, responsible, and child-centered parent. If you walk in unprepared, the process can feel overwhelming. But when you've taken the time to get ready, emotionally and practically, you take control of your story and your future. Well, that's it for today's episode of Divorce and Child Custody Discussion with Brian A. Victor. I hope this episode helps you understand the true importance of preparing for your family court services mediation session. If you're facing an upcoming FCS session and want support, I encourage you to reach out or to talk to your attorney about preparing properly. You don't have to go into this alone. If you found this episode helpful, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone going through a similar journey. And if you have any questions about family court services or about family court services preparation, or have suggestions for topics for future episodes, you can contact me at www.brianvictorlaw.com. Thanks again for listening, and I'll talk with you next time.